Alright, fact check this, episode 18. And today I wanted to talk about the MORE Act. For those who aren't aware, the MORE Act passed the House last week. The MORE Act, it decriminalizes marijuana along with imposing a 5% tax on marijuana sales. And it does a few other things to create kind of a business incentives for marijuana dispensaries and stuff like that. It also begins the process of expungement for marijuana convictions for previously convicted felons for drug convictions, and it establishes some guidelines that say that citizenship can't be denied on the basis of prior marijuana convictions, and like welfare, Medicaid, stuff like that can't be denied on the basis of prior marijuana convictions. So there's a lot of good stuff and a lot of bad stuff about the act itself. It passed the House, and it is considered to be dead in the Senate because for some reason the Republicans do not want to come off of this idea that marijuana is bad. Like I don't. If you look at the vote in the House, I think it went purely party line. It only passed because of the Democrats. I don't think any Republicans voted for it, which is shameful. It's absolutely shameful. Like, how are they so tone deaf to where we are as a country, where we are? Like, there's no reason for marijuana to be illegal anyway, and I want to hear what the argument is for continuing to push for its being illegal. And the MORE Act, let's just get right at it. The MORE Act does not fix the problem. It decriminalizes, it doesn't legalize. So, and there's a difference, and if you don't understand the difference, then let me know. We can talk more about that. I really don't want to delve into the weeds on that. So it's a decriminalization, not a legalization. It adds a 5% tax, which, of course, the government's going to find a way to, with literally any form of legislation that they come up with, they're going to make sure that they get their cut, no matter what. And I can, while I don't like it, and it's a big sticking point for a lot of libertarians that there is the tax is added to it, and so it's an automatic no for them. Literally anything you get from the government, any form of legislation, they're going to add some level of tax to it somehow, and it may be a like hidden fees, or it's going to create inflation. Like, it doesn't matter what they do. There's going to be tax associated with it. And I mean, that's just par for the course. So I wasn't, while I don't like it, I wasn't upset about it, because that's the way it works. If you're going to get something from the government, they're going to take something back. So, and then there's the establishment of it's like a trust fund to help the communities and stuff that have been affected by previous marijuana convictions and all of that stuff. And that sounds really nice, but it's another form of government handout. Like, all the tax money would go towards that, and it's just gonna be like Social Security or anything else. Like, they're gonna put together this trust fund to help these harmed communities, and then they're gonna end up spending every bit of that fucking money on bombing brown people in the Middle East, or corporate bailouts, or propping up banks or whatever. Like, it's not going to actually make it back to the communities that it's supposed to, and it's not going to fix any problems. And in fact, more likely than not, it'll create even more problems. And then at the end of the day, they're going to end up saying, oh, well, we already spent all of that money, so we're going to have to raise taxes in other places to make up for that money that we already spent so that we can make up, it's anytime the government is taking money to do something, they're not going to do with it what they say they are. So, like, I hate that part of it as well. But, again, that's par for the course with anything you get from the government. So it's shitty, but it's to be expected. And then it's the same for the can't be denied citizenship for previous marijuana convictions, or can't be denied Social Security, or not Social Security, welfare or Medicaid, or like government assistance because of previous marijuana convictions. Like, none of that stuff is actually meaningful in any sincere way. It's pandering and lip service to the base that the Democrats are trying to play to through this bill. So while I understand a lot of the turnoff to that stuff, it really doesn't have any significant impact on the bill itself. So, like, I worry that, like, the libertarians who are so opposed to this, and a lot of it is because of the tax and the trust fund that it sets up. Like, I understand the opposition, but you're never going to get a bill from either Democrats or Republicans that doesn't have some level of that stuff attached to it. Period. Like, it doesn't matter what the bill is, it's not going to come through without that stuff attached. So you kind of got to take the good with the bad on that. The really, really important part is it's the decriminalization. It sets up a path for legalization across the board nationwide. And it starts the process of expungement of charges for nonviolent drug offenders who literally did nothing. Like, if you listen to the Friday Lions of Liberty episodes that John Odermatt does with where he talks to different people who are in jail or have been in jail and the different things that they've been in jail for, like, somebody who's a non-violent drug offender can seriously lose half their life, if not their entire life, behind bars for having a plant on their person. Like, it's absolutely insane bullshit that we would punish people for having a plant. And the fact that we could actually get some legislation that is going to start to change that is going to start to fix that and right those wrongs. Like, everybody should be on board with this. Like, anybody who sincerely believes that Black Lives Matter should be on board with this. Like, not just the woke pandering bullshit, but if you've paid any attention to anything since the war on drugs started in the 80s and then the crime bill in 94, like, all of this has been almost specifically targeting black communities. And to get legislation passed that would decriminalize and even potentially legalize marijuana, it would solve some huge problems that have existed with over-incarceration of black males specifically, which has helped to ruin many black economies or many black communities. Like, there's nothing but good that could come from this if we could just get it passed. Like, it sets a good precedent to move forward and maybe take care of, like, some of the problems with it could be fixed down the line. But to get it initially passed would be a huge step in the right direction. And I think something that gets confused in non-libertarian circles is like we want the legalization of basically all drugs, like not just marijuana, but like stop making drugs a criminal thing and make it something that can be treated in it's there's a mental health aspect to it, as well as just personal choice aspect, as well as socioeconomic aspects. Like there's a lot more that goes into drugs and drug use and the nuance of all of it than what just making it illegal and throwing people in jail can address. And I think a lot of confusion is created by the libertarian position of legalizing drugs for most of the especially the non-red pill, but just generally speaking, the non-libertarian community, which is, the overwhelming majority of the people, unfortunately. But they think that we're all just a bunch of potheads or, drug abusers, and as soon as it's all made legal, we're just going to go nuts. Like, I have never smoked pot. I have never used a single drug, and I have absolutely no interest. So there's some talk of having a rally in Washington, D.C. to try to get the Senate to actually pass this and get people to show up and bring banners and signs and go out and push that this is something that the Senate needs to pass. And when I asked my wife if she wanted to take a trip to Washington, D.C. to peacefully protest in favor of getting the MORE Act passed, she said, "You don't smoke pot. It's not about smoking pot. I have no desire. I don't care. That has nothing to do with it. It's about the fact that the government is overreaching and overextending itself into our lives, and it's ruining entire communities. It's ruining individual people's lives on a literally daily basis. Every single day there are more people getting arrested for this shit that shouldn't be. That should be getting, instead of being thrown in jail, they should be getting mental help. They should be getting actual treatment for the things that are wrong with them. Some people are smoking pot to treat PTSD or because they got depression or anxiety, or there are so many different reasons that people do it. And the whole bullshit about the gateway drug and everything, how many times does this stuff have to be disproven for the Republicans to actually pay attention to it? So it comes back around to, and I said I'm about to go off on the Republican Party in general because it is a fucking joke. The reason I left was because I realized what a joke it was and what just status garbage the party is. But for all the trust the science and blah 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 that we've got going on in 2020 specifically, you would think that maybe they would apply that same logic to marijuana. I posted a little meme the other day. It said, we've got a COVID-19 vaccine that's been pushed out in 5 months, and they're all suggesting that this thing is perfectly safe and everybody should be on board with getting this vaccine. But they ignore decades and decades and decades of research on the medicinal benefits of marijuana. There is nothing more fucking hypocritical than the trust the science crowds within society and the government. And that's on the left and the right. They are all fucking hypocrites. If we're going to trust the science, we need to look at all the research that's been done that proves without a doubt that marijuana is a good thing for people who have PTSD, for people who have anxiety, for people who have stress, for people who have chronic pain. For all of these things, it is a huge benefit for them. And if we're going to be totally honest, like 100% honest, the only reason that the Democrats support it is because that's what their base wants. And the reason that the Republicans don't support it is not because it's not what their base wants. It's because they know that using the war on drugs is a economic, or not an economic, it's a financial benefit to the government. It keeps prisons full. It keeps them able to push forward the militarized police industry that is honestly plaguing our country. Like, the whole thing is a cash grab, and it's an easy way to pander and virtue signal for the left to pass a bill, or the MORE Act, in the House, knowing it's going to die in the Senate, because the war on drugs is every bit as beneficial to the left as it is to the right. If you haven't figured it out yet, I mean, this year should have really showed it to you, but if you hadn't figured it out yet, the left and the right are two sides of the same fucking coin. There is really very little difference between the two of them. They just pretend there is on TV. So it's easy for the House to pass that knowing that it's going to die in the Senate, because then they get to virtue signal and say, see, we voted for it, we wanted it, we did what you wanted. It's those evil Republicans in the Senate that screwed you over. And the Republicans are fucking stupid. Like, they are absolutely fucking stupid. If they had even the most basic, common lick of fucking sense, what they would do is pass this so that it shows we're on your side too. And then it drops it back in the laps of the Democrats that, oh shit, y'all actually got what you said you wanted. Now you got to prove that you actually wanted it. Because Joe Biden and Kamala Harris built their fucking political careers on destroying African American communities through the war on drugs. Like, they built their careers off of that. And like, for all this talk of Trump and playing 4D chess, and Republicans are supposed to be smart, supposedly, at least, you know, the political elite Republicans are supposed to be smart, and they're supposed to be economically conservative and all of this other stuff, and they're for freedom and blah, blah, blah. They are not at all. They're not in any way, shape, form, or fucking fashion about any of that stuff. They just pretend to be on TV again. It's fucking insane. If they had even the slightest shred of balls, they would pass this and prove that they are actually about freedom. They are actually about liberty. They are actually about personal responsibility and choice. And then it would also give a kind of a nod to the left to say, hey, we're willing to play ball on something. And then they drop it back on the left's lap that, okay, now you have to show that you legitimately want this and you're going to play along. There is no forethought, or the Republicans really are the dumbest fuckers on the planet. And I say that as a former Republican. They don't know what to do with power. And they just fumble it and fuck it all the time. Like, every time they have power, they screw it up. They have the opportunity to use their position to make changes and kind of sway the tide of things, and instead they're gonna hold this dumbass party line that doesn't even exist anymore to continue to ruin people's lives for absolutely no reason, And if we're being 100% honest, as much as I do not want to see the Democrats control the House and the White House and the Senate, I think every single Republican in the Senate that votes against the MORE Act should be voted out next time. And like I had a conversation with a friend yesterday about it. The only way that Kentucky is getting rid of Mitch McConnell is if a Republican primaries him out of his spot in the primaries. Like, no Democrat is going to uproot Mitch McConnell in Kentucky. The Democratic Party poured more money into Amy McGrath's campaign this year than any other campaign in the country, and they lost going away. Like, it was never even close. So, like, the only way that some of these are going to get out of there is if a better candidate primaries them and gets them out before they actually make it to a November election. But like, something's got to be done. And if that's the case, if you don't want to vote for a Democrat, put somebody up there and primary these motherfuckers and get them out in May instead of in November. Get rid of them. They all need to go. No incumbents. I've said it before, and I'll stick with it. There should never be an incumbent, period. Like, you've got X amount of time to do everything that you want to do, and then you're gone. So you better get your head out of your ass and get something done, because you're not going to have another chance to do it. And you're not going to spend the rest of your life fucking sitting in Washington, D.C., just raking in millions upon millions of dollars, while the people that you're supposed to represent continue to get poorer and poorer because of the inflation that you push forward. Derailed there a little bit. Anyway, go do some research on the MORE Act, and hopefully very soon there will be some events, Facebook events created that are going to, I'm going to share the shit out of them, that are going to turn into real life events where we're going to march on, Washington, D.C. and tell the Senate, hey, we want this. Do it. Like, this is the voice of the people that you are supposed to represent. Represent us and give us what we want. In the meantime, I hope everybody has a good day. Hope you have a good rest of your week. We'll be back later in the week at some point. Probably Thursday. Yeah, we're going to shoot for Thursday. And hopefully I'll have got an interview coming up soon with a couple of lovely ladies who are big libertarians and lots of fun to talk to. So, have a good one, everybody. Later.